Hey folks, hello everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining our meeting today. So before we start, we're just going to do a round of intros. So I'll start with myself. My name is Xavier Espana. I'll be facilitating, helping with note-taking and translating to Spanish.
Hi everybody, Raymond here with Debug. I'm formerly incarcerated. I'm here to help facilitate, note-take, and offer any advice I can.
Just a reminder, the way these things work, we ask if you are new to our meetings that you type out your email into the chat, or when we call on your name, you can just spell it out loud for us so we can make sure we send you a copy of notes. A reminder that we are not attorneys, so we do not give out legal advice. And we go in the order of the list, so the way that you entered will go in that order. We're going to start off by calling out all the names that we see in the Zoom, and we're going to ask you to state who you're here supporting. And then once we have the list established, we'll go ahead and start.
Yeah, I think I was facing up to 15 years. I was going through a couple of trials and errors in my life where I was confused at times, just needed some guidance, fell short, but along that path and journey, I think I stuck to it, so I came across the hub, and been the best thing for me since. Even though it was my first, adult case, they still was going off my point sheet, so, for a minute, they were very adamant on not, doing anything for me or anything working in my favor just off of the way things was. But once I started working with the Delco Youth Hub, I started getting involved in different things, different spark sessions, different meetings, being in rooms I never been in. Some things just started becoming undeniable. The potential was just there. It's just I couldn't really see it at the given time, but the whole process was just everything it needed to be. I got help with every step of my case. I could truly say that. It's times where I would go through the week and I would really be like, damn, I'm going to jail or X, Y, and Z. And I come to the hub and it's they'll boost me right back up. No, you're going to be all right. You're not going to jail. It's not going, you're going to make out okay. It's a chance. You can't think like that. And then it was just a bunch of resources, court support, mitigation package, social bios, defense prep. It was so many different things, but and then it was things that I didn't really know, you feel me? Things I didn't understand going to court, things I didn't know. I was helped with everything from how I physically felt, how I emotionally felt. By the time I looked up being in a hub, I done did so much work. I forgot I did half of it. I done did so much. And it's I wasn't knowing, I was looking at it yeah, I'm just going to this program, but in reality, I was doing so much for my community that I wasn't even acknowledging. So I think once they seen that too, oh, he really has been X, Y, Z, or he really has done X, Y, Z, or his feet has really been in these rooms, or, they said, no, we can't just throw him away. So instead of sending me to jail or, charging me with all those heinous charges, I got something that I feel was respectable. I got a year of house arrest. I got 6 months house restriction. And then I got 6 months monitored. And all of my felonies was dropped. To me though, I was just I ain't gonna make no excuses for myself, but I was just a kid who was in his emotions, not being able to control my emotions and not having nobody to talk to. So for that to even be my outcome to say, you know what? You won't have felonies on your record, or you don't gotta go to jail, and if you continue doing what you're doing, you'll be all right. I only see the best for me from here on out, so I'm living proof that if something happens to you, it's not the end. Or if you fall, that you can get back up and you can try again. Or if you going through things and you feel like this it, it's not. It's never just it. You just gotta pick your head up and keep going. Sometimes we all just need a hand sometimes, All of us just need some guidance sometimes. All of us just need a way. Sometimes all of us just need a chance. And I say for the hub, I'm just grateful to have the chance and opportunity to give back to my community and show the aspiration or potential that I do have.
When I was 18 years old, I was charged with the felony murder rule with a gang enhancement attached to it. Also charged with robbery and burglary, and I was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
You had a young man who had never been in trouble a day in his life. That doesn't matter. Even if you've been in trouble before, they still can't just put you in prison for the rest of your life. But yet, this young man who had just grown up in a gang area, even though he'd never been arrested, he was documented because the police would stop him because he was a black male. And they would see him with somebody, ask him who the passenger was, and use that for documentation. He was documented getting tacos at a taco shop before. In his car, the police just pulled up on him, asked him those pretextual questions. And so you saw this young man who had never had a chance just because of where he grew up.
Well, the journey of me coming home from life without parole was a very scary journey. It was an extremely long journey. At the beginning, I was told no so many times. I was denied. I mean, from the time I was arrested, I think I was denied a cup of water in court on a sidebar motion. Like, I've never was told yes. It was always no. My first appeal was a no. Second appeal was a no. Federal court said no. All the way to the point where the federal court sent me a letter that said all of your appeals have been exhausted and you will die in prison. At that point, I really lost hope. Senate Bill 61, which was for the youth offenders, was enacted. But at the last minute, they said, unless you're serving life without parole. And then I think Senate Bill 260, or I may have it backwards, I think it was 260 first, and then Senate Bill 261. And again, they said, hey, unless you have life without parole. When Senate Bill 1437 came about, I think it was CSR 48 at first, it was just talked about, I got a little bit of hope. And then when it was being voted on, again, they said, well, we're going to exclude anyone serving life without the possibility of parole. And it's like I just couldn't get over that hump. For us serving life without the possibility of parole, it's really hard because we're excluded from everything.
Brian didn't shoot anyone, didn't have a gun, and he ended up getting a death sentence in California prison. And that was life without parole. He was told he'd never go home for something he never did. And so he helped from the inside. He helped us organize around this bill. First, it was a resolution. We organized around, then it was a bill. And there was a lot of work. We even wrote a bill because we didn't think they were going to run SB 1437. So Weber's office called Skinner's office. He goes, we're going to run it. Restore Justice, I think it was called at the time. Kate Chatfield was the policymaker and lead person. I met her, and it just went from there.
Most of us under the felony murder rule are not killers. So when Senate Bill 1437 came, my hopes were really high. It looked like it was going to pass. It did not exclude LWOPs, but then once it was enacted, the Court of Appeals, and some Court of Appeals, not all of them, said if you have life without parole, because the elements are the same under the new felony murder rule, then you're excluded from this new law. And I still applied because at this time I was studying law, and I said, no, this doesn't sound right. I was able to get my case in front of a judge that was fair. He looked at the evidence. He tried his hardest to look at the district attorney's point of view. He asked questions and he really tried, but it's just the evidence wasn't there. So ultimately, my murder charge was vacated October 6, 2022, and my life without parole was vacated as well, and I was resentenced to 35 years for the remaining charges.
So Brian was the first LWOP to come home in San Diego. He's home now, and it's just an honor to know him and who he is, and to see how our best and brightest are literally buried behind these prison walls.
I was released this year, 2024, on April 26. I've been able to get a car because of the Pillars of Community and Asian Solidarity line, and a group called 5 Keys, which are resources. I was able to get employment. I've been able to get a forklift certification. I've been able to get my peer support specialist certification, CPR certification, workforce safety certifications, just one day at a time. But I've been doing it. It has been hard, but not impossible. And I'm up for the challenge.
We always knew that when he was going to be released, he had ICE hold. But we had also heard that sometimes ICE doesn't go pick up people from prisons when they're released. So Doña Cecilia, Eladio's mom, went to Avenal State Prison the day that he was getting released to see if ICE was going to pick him up or not. And so she was waiting outside of the prison and didn't really know until I think Eladio called her to let her know that he had been picked up by ICE. But I think through this process, we also learned that this was his first avenue of coming home, because he had a youth offender parole coming up, but he also had an out date in a couple of years. So this was the beginning steps of getting him home.
My youth offender board was one of the first cases heard in Avenal State Prison during the pandemic. It was the first time they were using the Zoom. I wasn't even present in front of them, so it was just, I'm already nervous and I'll have to step in, step out, step in, and I didn't even hear me get it denied,
So we kind of went through the transcripts with Mama Cecilia, helped her translate every single word, just to understand, because she was lost, oh, well, why did they deny him? And I think it was a little hard for Eladio on the inside too to explain that to her. So we kind of became that support for Mama Cecilia to better understand what had happened and the process he was going through.
I could have gave up on doing rehabilitation. I could have just, you know what, I'm done. I'm just going to sit back and just wait it out. But if I would have done that, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did afterwards, join the YLP program, do the mask making during COVID. And all these things helped me for my ICE case when I was trying to get deported. Yeah, before ICE picked me up, I did 17 years in prison. I was supposed to do 222, but through my rehabilitation, I brought it down. And when I got released from ICE, or from CDCR, I wasn't really released. I was just in the reception center where they distribute people to different yards, different places. And in that little room, they just set you aside and lock you up in a little smaller room. And you're gonna get picked up by ICE. So I kind of knew. I told my mom, do not come. It's 3-4 hours away, and it's just the pain of her realizing that I'm not gonna come home, And I wanted to prevent that because I knew I was gonna get deported.
Doña Cecilia called Nerelli and told her that Eladio had called and that he was being picked up by ICE. So we started calling all the different ICE offices. We asked to speak to the ICE officer for the day, but also to speak to Eladio, for him to let us know what was going on. And so within within an hour or two, we were able to get an attorney from Pangea, not to represent him, but at least to submit a form that there was possible legal representation on the way for Eladio, so that they started inputting paperwork so that at least the deportation process that was already happening got put on hold. So this was all happening while Eladio was already being placed in a van on his way to Tijuana for deportation.
Because they told me that I already signed the paperwork in 2008, and that was when I was 19 years old, so I didn't really know what I was signing. They told me to do the CAT, and they told me you can't do nothing about it. You already signed the paperwork. You're done, we're deporting you right now. And I'm all right. That's when I received their call, and you're supposed to only get one call. One phone call. And they asked me if I knew Silicon Valley and Alicia, and at that time I didn't know Alicia. She sounded super official. I thought she was older. She told me do this, and get this paperwork. Ask for this, ask for that. I'm like, all right. And so I asked them, hey, can we get this? No, we can't get that. You need an attorney. All right. They said they need an attorney to do it. They went and did it. And at the time, I'm thinking, I'm getting deported right now, in my experience, I'm getting denied everything. In the past, has seen that I've got denied everything. Paperwork takes weeks, months. I'm thinking like in 2 hours, like I'll be in TJ tomorrow morning. It's not gonna happen, you know. Like I'm just doing this just to make my mom feel better. It's because I know I'm getting deported. So it's just for my mom, you know what? I'll do it for my mom. I'm doing it. When I was getting handcuffed to the van, or to go when I was getting handcuffed to go into the van, I had two hands handcuffed, and the person that was a security, I think they were like contractors, they told me, hey man, you got a phone call. And they unhandcuffed one cuff, and they to answer the phone, and like, hey man, we did the paperwork, we're gonna stop your deportation. I'm like all right. Okay, I guess. Bye. And it was like, oh, it was my lawyer. All right. And they just put the handcuffs back on, and so I'm getting a van, and they said they're gonna stop it, but you know, like I don't believe it. So I'm in Fresno going to Bakersfield because that's where they have a facility so they could ship you out in the morning to Tijuana. They have to do paperwork, and on the way over there, and that's when I heard the ICE officer like, what the fuck, what do you mean turn around? And that's when I knew, when they said that, I think that's me. Well, as soon as I got off the van, the ICE officer told me, what the fuck you do? Why didn't you tell me? And I didn't tell him nothing, so I was just smirking. And in my mind, I was just saying, like, I thought I couldn't do shit. I thought I was deported. And he asked me, hey man, you really want to go through this? Like, you want to sign so you could just get over this? Like, nah, I'm fighting. I'm fighting now. I'm fighting my case. So that felt good.
Because we told him, like, hey, you know, this process is going to be like a longer process. Like, this is the first step. Now you're going to be placed in ICE detention center. I know you just did like 17 years in CDCR, but you got another like 6 months to a year in ICE detention.
So a lot of the work that we had done already, it was easier for us to present to attorneys. Like we had already done a lot of the back end work. We just needed an attorney to start representing him, to show to an immigration judge or to show to the ICE officers. So we just needed that legal representation, but the work was already there.
And with my mind, you know, like still like, I'm going to get denied bond, you know, like my head, you know, it just messes with me. I sent like 50 people. Like, you don't really see every single person, but you see a little number. And maybe the first people that appeared, you see their names in support of Eladio. I'm like, damn, like a lot of people showed up to the bond hearing. I was just like, as soon as I stepped out, I smiled at hell yeah. Like I was in disbelief. Like, I'm going home, you know, like, damn. Like, because the first time I seen my mom, that the guard told me, hey, go straight, do not look at your family. Just go inside, sit down, and once they call you, you can go in. And I think they did let my mom go into the office, and that's when I hugged her. And I told her, like, so I still, like, at that time, I was still in custody, but I was able to hug my mom. But then, like, me leaving to put my ankle monitor, I don't know what that did to my mom, because I'm like, man, am I going to come back? Like, that feeling. So I came back with ankle monitor, and like, hey, they told me that I could go. So, like, let's go home.